I'll never forget the first time I typed into Google, "What is autism?" I was scared, confused, and desperate for answers. What I found were endless medical terms, but very little that spoke to me as a parent. If you're here, chances are you're wondering the same thing. What is autism really? And what does it mean for my child and my family? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand autism, you'll see it in a completely new light. Let's start with the basics. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, is what we call a neurodevelopmental difference. In simple terms, the brain develops and processes information in a way that's unique. It's not an illness to be cured. It's not something caused by vaccines or bad parenting. And it's certainly not the result of something you did wrong. Science has shown us that autism is linked to genetics and early brain development. It's part of how your child is wired from the start. Now, here's something every parent needs to understand. Autism is not one size fits all. That's why we call it a spectrum. Think of it less like a straight line from mild to severe, and more like a color wheel. Each child has their own mix of strengths and challenges. One child may barely speak, but can build entire structures out of Legos with stunning precision. Another may talk endlessly about dinosaurs or astronomy, yet struggle to join a playground game or read facial expressions. And here's the myth we need to break wide open. Autism is not a tragedy. The real tragedy is when children are misunderstood, unsupported, or made to feel like they don't belong. With the right understanding and accommodations, autistic children can thrive in school, at home, and in their communities. In fact, research shows that when families and schools focus on support rather than fixing children, build stronger self-esteem, and develop their unique gifts. So if you've ever felt that fear rise up in your chest when you hear the word autism, take a breath. What you're really hearing is my child's brain works differently. Again, different doesn't mean broken. And that leads us right into the biggest question parents ask me. How do you actually recognize autism? That's where we're heading next. Research shows autism often appears before the age of 3. Though in hindsight, many parents notice subtle differences even in infancy. Things like less eye contact during feeding or not responding to their name around 9 to 12 months. These early cues can be easy to dismiss, but they matter. So let me walk you through some of the most common signs. Communication differences. Some children may have delayed speech, or they may talk in unusual ways. It's like repeating phrases from TV shows, a behavior known as echolalia. Others may speak fluently, but struggle to hold back and forth conversations. I remember one parent telling me her son could recite entire movie scripts, but couldn't answer a simple question like, "How was your day?" Social interaction struggles? This can look like difficulty making eye contact, not knowing how to join in play, or missing cues that other kids pick up naturally. For example, your child might not notice when another child is upset, or they might say something blunt that comes across as rude, even though they don't mean it that way. Sensory sensitivities. The world can feel overwhelming. Loud noises, bright lights, strong smells, or even the texture of clothing tags can trigger discomfort or meltdowns. I'll never forget the story of a little girl who loved birthday parties, but had to cover her ears and cry during the singing because it felt unbearable. Rigid routines. Many autistic children need structure. They want bedtime in the exact same order, or they may insist on lining up toys in a specific way. Small changes like taking a different route to school can cause major distress. Special interests. A deep, sometimes intense passion for one topic is another hallmark. It might be dinosaurs, trains, or outer space. These interests aren't just hobbies. They can be sources of comfort, learning, and joy. But here's the part most people don't realize. These signs don't always show up the same way. Autism can look very different in boys and girls. Research shows that girls are often underdiagnosed because they may mask or camouflage their traits, copying the behavior of peers or forcing themselves to make eye contact, even if it feels uncomfortable. This means many girls don't get identified until much later in life. That's why listening to your gut as a parent is so important. Studies consistently show that parents are often the first to notice differences, even years before doctors make a formal diagnosis. If you feel something is different about your child, trust that instinct. Now, recognizing the signs is just the first step. What you do next can change everything, and that's exactly what we'll cover in a moment. If you're nodding along, wondering if your child might be autistic, here's what I recommend. because taking action early can make all the difference. Step 1. Start tracking behaviors. Write down what you notice and when. Is it during transitions, noisy places, or social interactions? Patterns tell a powerful story. For example, when I began jotting down meltdowns, I realized they almost always happened after school assemblies, loud, crowded, unpredictable spaces. That detail became crucial when I spoke to professionals. Step 2. Talk to professionals. A pediatrician is often the first stop, but you may also need a developmental pediatrician, child psychologist, or a speech-language pathologist. These experts can guide you towards screenings and evaluations. The American Academy of Pediatrics actually recommends routine autism screening at 18 and 24 months, but many children slip through without it unless parents raise concerns. Step 3. Ask your child's teacher. Teachers see kids in structured, social settings we as parents don't. They may notice patterns like difficulty following group instructions or challenges with peer relationships. And while not every teacher fully understands autism, their observations are still valuable pieces of the puzzle. Step 4. Seek an evaluation. This can feel scary, but early diagnosis leads to early support. Research shows that children who receive interventions, whether speech therapy, occupational therapy, or social skills support, often build stronger communication, coping, and learning skills that help them long-term. The earlier the support, the better the outcomes. And here's something I wish someone told me. Autism is not a limitation. It's a different way of experiencing the world. Once I stopped fearing the label and started seeing it as a guide, everything shifted. Instead of feeling lost, we finally had a map. We could understand our child better, advocate for them, and create an environment where they could thrive. Suddenly, the world didn't feel like it was working against us. It began to make sense. But here's the most powerful truth about autism that almost no one talks about, and I'll share that next. Yes, autism brings challenges. No parent can deny that. But what often gets overlooked are the extraordinary strengths that come with it. Many autistic people have an incredible ability to focus deeply on subjects they love, sometimes for hours without distraction. While the world calls it obsession, I've learned to call it passion. That laser focus can turn into expertise. Others have an eye for detail, seeing patterns, numbers, or inconsistencies that most of us miss. In fact, research shows autistic individuals often excel in fields like technology, science, engineering, and the arts because of this unique perspective. And then there's creativity. Some children express themselves in ways that surprise and inspire, from building entire worlds in Minecraft to drawing intricate designs, to solving problems in ways you and I would never think of. Temple Grandin, one of the most well-known autistic advocates, once said, "The world needs different kinds of minds to work together." And she's absolutely right. Many breakthroughs in history came from people who thought differently, who didn't follow the typical path. So instead of asking, how do I fix autism? The better, more powerful question is, how do I support my child so their strengths can shine? Because when we nurture their gifts, we don't just help them, we give the world access to talents it desperately needs. So, let's recap. If you're still asking, what is autism? Remember this. Autism is not a disease to be cured. It's a spectrum of brain differences that influence how a person communicates, processes the world, and relates to others. For some children, that may look like delayed speech or sensory sensitivities. For others, it may be intense focus, unique routines, or struggles with social cues. No two autistic children are exactly alike, and that's the beauty and the challenge of the spectrum. What matters most is recognizing the signs early. Research shows that children who receive support and accommodations earlier have stronger outcomes later in life, socially, academically, and emotionally. Awareness opens the door to understanding, and understanding opens the door to growth. And here's the most important truth I've learned as a parent. This knowledge doesn't limit your child. It liberates them. It gives them permission to be fully themselves, and it gives you the tools to help them thrive. And if this video helped you, then you need to watch the next one. Because once you understand what autism is, the real transformation happens when you learn how to support your child every single day. That's where confidence grows, meltdowns decrease, and family life finally starts to feel hopeful again.